Have you done a lot of the longer form podcasts?
I have never done a podcast. This is my
Really?
first. Yes.
No way. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I like this format because you can really explain stuff, you know? It's a good format. I like it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it.
Growing community, one conversation at a time, brick by brick.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brick by Brick. I am Brad Critchfield, and this is the podcast that builds community one conversation at a time. Today, I have a very special guest, sitting U.S. Congresswoman Linda Sánchez. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks for inviting me.
No, this is awesome. You have a very fun side.
Well, I grew up in a family of 7 kids, so we always had to make up ways to have fun, and we did.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when, how did you grow up? Were you?
So I grew up in Anaheim.
Okay.
And I am the 6th of 7 children, and my parents are immigrants, so they didn't have a whole lot. So we didn't have toys and, electronic game. We had to make up our own fun, and there was always something going on in our house.
I feel like my kids miss out on that because I grew up in Section 8 housing, and I have 6 brothers, and so it's similar. But we used to make up. It was like I have this joke, like if you've ever played The Floor is Lava, you were poor. I hate to break it to you, but you make up stuff like that. Yeah. So you grew up in Anaheim?
Yeah, and that was a time when our parents would be like, "Get out of the house."
Yeah.
So we'd get on our bikes and we'd
street lights come on.
Yeah. Back when the street lights, Lord only knows what we were out on the streets doing.
Yeah.
Back then there were orange groves. We used to go play hide and seek in the orange groves. We used to ride our bikes and have adventures everywhere, and then come home when it got dark.
I feel like kids miss out on that stuff. Like I couldn't imagine me telling my girls, just come back when the street lights come on.
Right. No cell phones to check in.
We
no
all survived.
anything.
We survived.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Congress now?
So this is my 24th year in Congress.
Okay.
I got elected when I was 12.
How old were you?
Age is relative in Congress.
Right.
So I was very young for a member of Congress. I got elected when I was 33.
I remember telling my friend, I'm like, it's the only thing you can get into in your 30s and you're the youngest person in the room.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah.
If you've been in an auto accident, don't get mad. Call the Pad. Preferred Auto Design is Lakewood's #1 auto body and collision center for a reason. Owner David Ariano runs a first-class shop with honesty, quality, and care you can trust. So remember, you get in an accident, call the Pad. How did you start?
So when I was in high school, I became part of a group of young Democrats on campus. And again, this was Orange County. Everything was all the electeds were Republican. There were no Democratic elected officials at that time. So we were kind of like a small group, but we started out volunteering on campaigns and door knocking, phone banking. I continued that in college and law school, volunteering on political campaigns and whatnot. And my sister Loretta, who was older than me, she ran for city council first in Anaheim and lost. And then she decided a couple of years later to run for Congress.
Okay.
And I became very active on her campaign, walked precincts most weekends, and she ended up winning that congressional seat, which was considered a big upset at the time. And I think in a weird way, it kind of put into my head the realm of the possible. It's possible for a Latina to run for Congress and to actually get elected. And I kind of kept that in the back of my mind. In the year 2000, they did the census, because they do the census every 10 years. And based on whether your state gains or loses population, they redistrict the seats.
Right.
And so California's population had grown. They created a brand new seat. I happened to live in it. I lived in Lakewood at the time. But I loved my job. I was running the Central Labor Council in Orange County, the umbrella organization for all the unions. And I was looking at the new maps because we would support candidates that were good on labor issues. And I asked, this seat here, whose seat is it? And I was told by the state political director, oh, that's a brand new open seat. There's no incumbent. And I said, well, who's running? And she gave me the names of several people that were running. So I started to pay attention and go to community events and listen to these people talk, and I wasn't blown away by any of them. And I was like,
right.
wow, you know, these are the choices that I have.
Right.
I was married at the time, and my husband said, because I think I complained about it once too often, well, instead of complaining about it, Linda, why don't you do something about it?
Yeah.
And that's when I got this crazy idea. I could run for Congress, and I could do that job.
That's awesome.
And I knew how to run a congressional race because I had my sister's first reelection to Congress. I ran her field campaign, which is all the voter contact. So I knew that side of it. I had a 5-way Democratic primary. I won the primary, and then I won the seat in the general election, and I've been there ever since.
How long did your sister serve?
She served for 20 years in Congress.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's retired from Congress now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You probably have a lot to talk about. You have a good relationship?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, she's the older sister.
Okay.
I'm the younger sister, so she's prone to giving me unsolicited advice from time to time.
It happens.
It happens. But yeah, we have a good relationship.
Speaking as an older brother, it's just in there. You know?
Yeah.
That's cool. This episode of Brick by Brick is brought to you by Hearthy Foods. Go to hearthyfoods.com and use promo code BRICK at the checkout and save 50% off your order today. They're the best single ingredient supplements out there at the best price. So go to hearthyfoods.com, get a great product while supporting your community podcast. Like, did you become inclined because of the influence of your parents?
So my parents weren't political. They were for many years legal permanent residents, but not citizens. Prop 187 in California convinced them to become citizens. But we watched the news a lot in our household growing up, and at the dinner table we would discuss current events. And
at what age?
I mean, I can remember from third grade,
That's
them
cool.
talking about stuff. And
I just think it's cool that you guys all eat dinner together. I feel like even that's rare these days.
Well, we ate it in shifts because we had a very small kitchen table.
Okay.
So one
Like
group
a
first and
kitchenette.
then the other group. But my mom was really, she started out as a mom of 7 kids. She raised kids and then volunteered in our school classrooms, as they used to have classroom moms back then.
Right.
And then as she became more active, particularly helping immigrant kids who didn't speak English that would come mid-year, she got a job as a teacher's aide, and she really became a big advocate for bilingual education. And I used to go with her to all these conferences with her to talk about the need for programs that help migrant kids not fall far behind. And I think her activism in the education space is really where I kind of got my political, sort of bug to try to make a change, try to make things better.
On top of doing the podcast, I'm also a school board member for BUSD, and we have a great dual immersion program. And even like in test scores and everything, like the kids that are in dual immersion do so good. So it's one of our draws for our district.
Well, there's a lot of research now that shows the earlier that kids are introduced to dual languages, the quicker their actual brains develop and the better that they do in schools. So it's really important. And I tell people also, because we hear so many people disparage bilingual education programs, and I tell them we're the only country in the world that doesn't want kids at a young age to learn a second language, but requires 4 years of a second language to get into college.
Some require 3 or 4. When I was in my 20s, when I was just a young buck, I was in Hungary, and I was there for about a month, and I was blown away by like learning about their education system. And they were required to learn 3 languages from what I remember.
Yeah. And
I barely passed English in community college. I'm like, I wish I would have. I know. And a guy who's been trying to learn Spanish for almost 40 years now. So I feel like if I would have been more exposed to it younger, it would have stuck. But it is, I think it's harder to learn when you're a little bit older.
It is, because you get self-conscious.
Yeah.
Kids don't, and adults will correct them. Like, I remember this, trying to teach kids that 2 feet are feet, they're not feets, right? And kids would say, my feet's hurt or whatever, and feet, and you correct them, but they don't feel ashamed or embarrassed. Yeah. They just kind of absorb it and move on.
Oh, okay.
Whereas like adults are like, I don't want to speak this language if I can't speak it perfectly.
Right. There's that you're just a little bit more self-conscious of it as you're older.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So you've been in for a little while. What do you think is the biggest change from then to now?
I'd say the biggest change is the polarization.
Yeah.
And sort of the lack of civility. I mean, the level of civility has really dropped. People used to respect the institution. Witnesses that would come before the committee would answer the questions that you put to them. Nowadays, they talk over you, they argue back, and you can't get the information you need in order to be a good policymaker.
Right.
We've just seen some witnesses come in and just be completely rude, combative, attack members, and it's like, no, we've called you here to give us information.
Right.
Your job is to provide that information. But it's gotten really out of hand. Members that call other members names or disparage them publicly, like in tweets and whatever, like that wasn't happening when I was a newer member of Congress.
So social media hasn't helped.
Social media has not helped. And just, you know, I've seen sort of the really hard right turn of the Republican Party. I used to have, when I was a newer member, I wouldn't say a huge number of Republican friends, but I'd say like at least 15 people that were like moderate Republicans that I could work with on legislation, that I was friendly with, might have lunch with. That's like shrunk down to maybe like 2 or 3 now.
Really?
Yeah, because the more moderate Republicans have either been defeated by further right Republicans, or they've just retired because they've seen how polarized it's getting and they don't want to serve there anymore.
It sounds like there's like a lot more falling in line on the party lines.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Do you think there's more moderate Democrats or more moderate Republicans?
I think there are a lot more moderate Democrats than there are Republicans. Yeah.
And do you think that has that always been the same?
I think there have always been greater number of moderate Democrats than Republicans. Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
You know, members run in districts that are, you know, different from one another. It's different if you represent a rural area than the more urban area, or, you know, a more diverse area versus more homogeneous area. And so members really have to match the districts that they run in. And I just think, you know, in the past when we had Democrats that were elected from Alabama and Tennessee, they just had to be more moderate because they were reflections of their districts.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And as, you know, there have become fewer and fewer Democrats representing those areas, they're now represented by Republicans. There's just not as many.
Yeah.
But I still think that there are more than there are on the Republican side.
Do you still enjoy it?
I love what I do.
Yeah.
When I first ran, as I told you, I was young for a member. I made a promise that if I ever got to a point where I was really jaded on Washington, D.C., or felt like I wasn't making a difference, it's time to leave and pass the torch to somebody who has energy and passion. But I still feel like what I do matters. I feel like what I do makes a difference in the lives of my constituents. And it's extremely gratifying when you're able to help people, whether that's individual casework, like individuals come to our office with a problem with the Social Security Administration or the VA, or whether that's legislatively, you're able to pass a bill that affects millions of people. But it's still, you know, I still find it very fulfilling and very worthwhile.
There's so much to learn. Like you really have to learn so much about so much.
Yes.
And so I'm sure, and I know that like before I got elected, I was kind of big on term limits. I was like, dude, because I was very much like the young guy, like, you know, you need the young blood in all the time.
Fresh perspective, all that.
And I still think that's valuable.
Yeah.
But it's taken me 3+ years to just like learn all the things in public education, and I'm still learning. Yeah. And now I have a different perspective, because there's not only is it a lot of time and effort and willingness to learn all those things, but there's also a financial, like it costs money to send people to conferences and training and all of these things. So now I'm like, I've changed my stance a little bit, where I'm like, you want people that have experience. And if they're putting in the work and they're willing to, then that's very valuable. The youthful energy and stuff is good when it's needed, but you can't put a price on experience.
There is a lot to be said for institutional knowledge. And you gain that through years of experience. And that's valuable. You can't really put a price on that. I do understand the frustration sometimes, especially with younger folks, that, oh, everybody's old and we need, fresh perspective.
Ageism. It's ageism.
Well, but there's some truth to that.
Right.
I work with a lot of cities, I will just tell you. And I have cities where like the same 5 people have been on the city council for 20 years.
Right.
And I have cities where there's a lot of turmoil, and as soon as somebody gets elected, then there's a recall, and they're trying to, and it's a revolving door in the city.
Right.
Both of those extremes are not great, because the 5 people who've been there for 20 years plus may not have fresh ideas or new perspectives. The cities that do the best are cities that have city council members that have some experience and some institutional knowledge, but every so often they get a new voice, a fresh perspective on that council.
Right.
Those are the cities that seem to do really well. And I think Congress, something that's very hard to explain to people, at least on the Democratic side, it to some extent on the Republican side too, is based on your years in service. So the more years that you have in Congress, the higher your seniority, the more sort of responsibility and power that you have to get things done.
And that's the way it should be.
And, I've been there for 24 years. I tell people, much of politics is just the art of relationship building.
Yeah.
If you are willing to help people, and then one day you need help passing a bill or whatever, they're going to be more likely to help you if they trust you, if they've worked with you. You can't just come in as a new person. You're not going to have those networks of people that can help you get stuff done. So it is very valuable to have those years of experience.
Right. You passed the primary and you're in the general. Assuming you do win, you'll be the most senior.
I will be, well, I won't be
not the most senior age-wise.
No, or years-wise, but
okay.
On my committee.
On the Ways and Means Committee.
On the Ways and Means Committee, which is a very powerful committee.
Right.
Has jurisdiction over things like tax,
right,
trade, which is what I do, social safety net programs like Social Security and Medicare. So right now I am the 6th most senior person on that committee.
Okay.
I'm the first woman to ever chair. Well, I'm not a chair. I'm a ranking member because we're not in the majority. But if we win back the House in November, I will be the first woman to chair a subcommittee.
Really?
And in the next Congress, if I get elected in November, I will move up 2 spots because 2 people who are above me in seniority are retiring.
Got it.
So I will be number 4 on that committee. Okay. And the goal for me is to stick with that committee and continue my work there. If I'm fortunate enough to get reelected again, I would love to be the first woman in the history of the United States to chair the Ways and Means Committee, the full committee, because that's never been done before.
How many committees are there?
Oh, there's I don't even know. There's a lot. Yeah.
Like what are the top 5, like the biggest ones?
So there are what we call exclusive committees, which if you serve on that committee, you're not supposed to serve on another committee because it has that much work and it's that important.
Got it.
So it's Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce, Financial Services. Those are all exclusive committees.
Okay.
Armed Services is a very desirable committee. Many
exclusive?
folks, it's not an exclusive committee. I'd say oversight is an important committee because it has oversight over all the federal agencies and the administration. But it just kind of depends on what issues you care about in terms of what you think are the most important committees.
Yeah. I'm a poli-sci. My undergrad's in poli-sci. I'm a poli-sci nerd. And I love to watch congressional hearings. And
you are a sick individual.
I know. But I've watched so many. Do you enjoy congressional hearings?
I used to enjoy them a lot more than I do now because, as I said, the witnesses go on very combative. They'll talk over you. They'll insult you, which never happened before. Yeah. I do like hearings because it's an opportunity for you to ask experts about a particular topic to get their perspective so that as a policymaker, you can be a better informed policymaker. But it's really just kind of devolved into shouting matches, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah. I find even... I had to stop myself because I watch so many. At school board meetings, we'd have a presentation, and I'd feel myself treating it like
a congressional.
Yeah. It's so bad. Is there a particular time in a congressional hearing where you felt like one that sticks out like sticks in your mind as like a really like important one that you were a part of?
Hearings or markups? Because hearings are when we hear from witnesses, and then markups are when we debate bills and we try to modify them. Or
the hearings.
Hearings. I remember, and this was maybe four or 5 years ago, around 2018 maybe, we had a hearing on retirement security.
Okay.
And because women make less than men on average for the same work, women typically have less in retirement saving when they retire. And because women live longer than men do typically, they have to make that smaller amount last longer. So we had witnesses in because we were talking about trying to create opportunities for people to save for retirement. And a statistic that I learned as a result of that hearing was that 2/3 of all Latina workers in the United States, even if they wanted to save something for their retirement, their employers don't offer anything.
Right.
2/3 of all Latinas. Now, the Latino population in the United States is around 25% nationally, in some places much higher, like California. Think about how many women, even though they may want to save for retirement, don't have a vehicle in which they can do that.
Right.
So we really need to create opportunities for employers to provide that so that people can participate. And we did. We have passed legislation that allows people to opt in or out of like a 401k program that is built for employers who can't themselves provide that.
Right. And I'm sure it gets difficult, right? Like making those calls when it comes to like small, medium, large businesses. They all have different challenges.
Yeah.
Right. And then also like, public government jobs compared to like private companies.
Yeah, because we don't want to overburden small mom and pop, businesses either. But we do want to create those vehicles so that, folks can save for their retirement.
It seems like such a tough challenge to solve, like every challenge, I'm sure. What do you think is like the toughest challenge to solve?
Without a doubt, it's healthcare.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it's healthcare.
Yeah.
Our healthcare system is so complex, and it's so difficult to kind of get your hands around how we can improve outcomes. We spend more on healthcare than any industrialized nation, and our health outcomes are far poorer. And there's, there are ways that we can help fix that, but I feel like healthcare is a giant spider web, because if you touch one part of it, it has ripple effects throughout the whole rest of it.
Right.
So it's really hard to kind of come up with a comprehensive way to get the kind of outcomes you want, to lower the costs that we should, be able to lower, because we pay more for our healthcare than any industrialized country. There really are a lot of things we need to fix within the healthcare system to make it better.
Yeah. There's a funny Norm Macdonald. Do you watch stand-up comedy? There's a Norm Macdonald clip where he talks about if a politician would just say, just end cancer, like nobody would ever be opposed to that. Like, but there's never like this real strong, focus on actually curing something with healthcare. It always becomes a financial conversation of how we're going to pay for things, but never really about what we're doing about the healthcare. Do you feel like there's been a lot of progress in healthcare?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that technology advances, and there are some just amazing...
We live in a great time right now.
It's amazing when you're able to find things that will, stop the development of cancer. Won't cure it, but it'll slow it down enough that you have quality of life. Certain cancers... I saw I went up to Silicon Valley and toured some medical research sort of innovators. The Da Vinci machine, I don't know if you have heard about that. It's a robotic machine by which they can do open heart surgery so that they don't have to cut your chest open and break your ribs in order to,
that's nice.
to do heart surgery. I mean, talk about, minimizing the recovery time. There are just like so many advances. The problem is, and this is what I tell people, no elected officials ever going to tell you they're against curing cancer or against educating our kids. But the question is, okay, will you commit the funding to do it? Because it does oftentimes take the money to do it.
Right.
And so I always tell people, if somebody tells, yeah, I'm for that. Okay, well, put your money where your mouth is.
It's like when you tell people, like, show me your budget and I'll tell you your priorities.
Right, exactly. That's not to say that there aren't areas where, maybe we're overspending and maybe we need to pull back funding in certain areas. But you don't fix something by just saying, okay, this isn't, working as well as we want, or there's, some degree of fraud, so we're just going to cut it all out.
Right.
I mean, that's not helpful either, because there are people that were relying on the funding that we do for cancer research or for Alzheimer's. Both my parents passed from Alzheimer's. I play in that space a lot because I care about families that have to deal with the caregiving burden, which is a lot, the financial burden. But it's very hard to fix things without committing the funding to do it.
Right. Yeah. It's, I think it's really important. Like when you have somebody in power, influence, that has a personal connection, to like really use that to fuel the effort. So my daughter was born with cancer. So I like the ability to pay for all the treatment that we went through. She's 12 now and she's been cancer free, and it's been amazing. She's an amazing little girl. But I would be living on the streets right now if we didn't have something, right?
Yeah.
And I've always been a very moderate, but I'm a Democrat. And when my conservative friends ask me why I'm a Democrat, it's like, I have issues with how we do things, but it's like, I grew up in Section 8 without government assistance. Like, who knows what that would have looked like? Do I look back and can I see issues with that? Sure. My daughter, with her medical treatments and all the support that we got to make, give us the life that we have today, that's all because of programs that were funded that are Democrat supported. So do I have like my issues? Sure. I've always been moderate, but it's like, we can still fix things and support things at the same time, to your point.
Yeah. I often tell people that it's not a question of like getting rid of something.
Right.
It's a question of, let's increase transparency. How are they spending the funding? And accountability. Okay, if they're not spending it wisely, how do we make them accountable, or how do we make sure that they do?
Right.
So when people are like, oh, let's, get rid of Social Security, it's like, wait a minute. No, it's been a very successful anti-poverty program for seniors, the most successful in our nation's history. People rely on that for their retirement. Some people almost exclusively on Social Security benefit. We can't just get rid of it. Let's find ways to improve it and extend the life of it. But getting rid of it isn't going to solve the problem.
Right.
It's going to create worse problems, because then you're going to have elderly people who are homeless or have to move in with families, which creates all other kinds of pressures and dynamics as well.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to this, I think it's a recent thing. So, but do you know about like a E-rate? The
yes.
federal. So I know that they have a hearing coming up where they open it up to public comment. So there's like this fear and like that we're going to lose E-rate, which is, I think our district, it's like basically be like an additional $800,000 burden on us. But I think that's kind of like to that point of like, I'm not afraid, because I feel like it's good to look at things and see how it's being spent and how we're allocating. But how do you see E-rate right now and like where it's going?
Yeah, so there are people that want to get rid of it. E-rate was a program that we put into existence during COVID because kids couldn't go to school for the most part. So they were doing it remotely. But if you don't have access to Wi-Fi or internet, you're a kid that can't get their education. And so it was an investment to try to make sure that we developed Wi-Fi infrastructure, particularly in rural areas where kids would have access so that they wouldn't lose, they wouldn't fall behind in school. And some people think, okay, well, COVID's over, we don't need to make that investment anymore. No, there are kids that still really rely on it. And nowadays too, it's not just for educational purposes. Now we have telehealth, which if you the nearest hospital to you or doctor to you is, 70 miles away or 100 miles away because you're in a rural area. Telehealth can be
telehealth is awesome, by the way.
It's amazing. It's amazing. They used to talk about telehealth.
Some good things came out of COVID. I'm just saying.
Someday in the future we'll be able to. And then COVID made us have to do it.
Yeah.
So now we have. It's for many people it's a lifeline. And but if you don't have that Wi-Fi and internet infrastructure, people lose access.
Yeah, and so I know there's going to be a comment period and it's going to be a discussion. I think a lot of people in education are worried because it could create a financial burden on districts.
Yeah.
Because obviously we'd still be paying for the same things, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just more optimistic as far as like our ability to fund education.
I will say this: some cities that I represent, every year there's an appropriation cycle where they submit projects that they'd like federal funding for.
I was going to bring that up in the next section.
Some cities have, and I think this is a fantastic project. They looked for federal funding, and I got it for them to be able to put Wi-Fi in every public building in their city. So whether it's park or a library or a community. So if you don't have reliable internet at home, you can go to a city facility and you can have access, which is incredible.
So do you think E-rate's going to get cut?
I don't know. In this environment, they're cutting everything, and it's we are really trying to fight those cuts because they can be devastating for folks.
What funding? I mean, a lot of people don't know, but like the funding from the federal government for public education is much smaller compared to like what we get from the state.
Yes, but
it's still significant. But one of the things that every year our board, we have a very active, engaged board. We will do the. We'll go to Washington and advocate. And the thing that I always make sure, because my daughter has special needs, so I'm passionate about it. My whole board is, but IDEA,
yeah.
And like the 40% promise, I think we're at like 13%.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of those issues where I don't think a lot of people disagree with, no matter what side of the aisle, that you should fund education for our disabled students. But what do you think the hang up is and why we don't move that forward, regardless of who's in control of the House and Senate?
Yeah. So one of the things is that education funding is primarily the responsibility of each state and locality. That's why property taxes are typically used to fund schools. Mm-hmm. The federal government does invest in schools for certain kinds of programs, and special education funding is one of those areas where the federal government has mandated certain requirements so that if your child has disabilities, they will get an appropriate education. Right. They're not like just shoved in the back of the classroom and forgotten about, right? But the federal government has not ever fully funded IDEA, which is the funding for special education. I think the price tag is big.
It's huge.
That is one of the impediments. People, are very focused on what it costs. And I think, it's a question of priorities. We are funding a war in the Middle East, which was a war of our own creation, which has caused prices to skyrocket. It's not made us any safer. We haven't brokered any kind of peace agreement there, even though, they declared victory several times.
It's been over 30 times.
Yes. But we have the billions of dollars to spend on that, but not to educate our own children.
That drives me crazy.
It drives me crazy too. I once saw a bumper sticker that said, it'll be a great day when we fully fund education for our kids and we have to have a bake sale to buy, bombers for the Army.
Right.
It's not to say we don't need to spend on defense, but there is a lot of wastefulness in the defense space too. But the minute you try to get accountability, people are like, "Oh, you're not for protecting our country."
Right.
So it's very tough optically to say, "Well, we're going to cut this so that we can fund that."
Yeah, and I don't see it too much the other way. Like when somebody doesn't fund something, it's like, oh, you have something against kids with disabilities. You don't like, it doesn't become that.
Right. You never accuse people, oh, you want to cut food stamps? Why do you hate kids that are hungry?
Exactly.
Why do you hate starving kids? Yeah. But that's essentially, you're saying it's not important to feed kids, but it's important to give tax cuts for billionaires.
Right.
Because that's what the one big, I don't even call it the one big beautiful bill. I call it the one big steaming pile of shit.
Is that a thing? Can you just make up your own name for the bills?
Oh, they tried to change the name of that bill to try to make it seem more popular with people. Republicans are not even running on that bill. They're running away from it because it's so disastrous.
Has anybody ever done that
I've
before?
never seen that done before, where they try to change the name of a bill to make it sound better than it is. And I will tell you, it turns out that, cutting food assistance for hungry children, okay, throwing people off of their health insurance, because 5 million people have lost their health insurance since they passed that bill, and they're expecting even more in the next year, all to give tax cuts to billionaires, people like Elon Musk who don't need it. That proves to be very unpopular. So that they're not even mentioning one big beautiful bill. They've tried to change the name of it and pat themselves on the back about it, but their constituents know better and they're angry.
I just think it's crazy that you could just make up your own name of your bill. And if you can, I'm surprised no one's done it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you feel like right now we're in a time where like something, like you're kind of waiting to see how the midterms go to like, before you like really kind of make the push for things?
Well, it's important to understand that whoever has the majority
can either put it on,
controls what bills come to the floor for a vote. So Democrats can't choose what bills come to the floor. Only the Republicans can. The Speaker can. He's a Republican. There is it used to be a very rare procedure that you could follow to bypass the Speaker. Like if the Speaker didn't want your bill on the floor, you could do what's called a discharge petition, which means if you could get 218 people, which is the majority of the members of Congress, to sign on a petition saying we want this bill to come to the floor, regardless of whether the Speaker wants it or not, it automatically comes to the floor because a majority of the people in the Congress want it.
Okay.
We have passed 4 of those bills this cycle, which means that 100% of Democrats, and we've managed to pull enough Republican support to bypass the Speaker and bring those bills to the floor. And freshman members think that that's how you legislate. They don't understand this is like a really extraordinary thing. I think maybe one discharge petition every 20 or 30 years it gets passed. And we've done 4 this term. But that's all to say that the Speaker determines what bills come to the floor. So if Democrats are not in the majority, we cannot get our bills to the floor. The Republicans decide what bills come to the floor for a vote. Right.
Because I know that there is a bill that addresses IDEA, but it lays it out over the course of so many years so it can like work its way into the budget. But I feel like so many things are getting cut that, I'm not holding my breath on it.
Yeah.
It's just something that I hope stays in the conversation because it's important.
It is important.
How long has it been? 10 years since you represented Lakewood? How long has it been?
Yeah, it's been about 10 years now.
What do you think has changed about Lakewood, or what do you think, for our area, what's changed in the past 10 years?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I used to live in Lakewood, and I represented.
Where about?
So I lived on the eastern part of Lakewood, on the border with Cerritos and Hawaiian Gardens. I was off of Bloomfield and Del Amo.
Okay. Yeah. I used to be a personal trainer at that Valley Total Fitness back in the day.
I still go to the Hawaii Loft that's there.
Oh yeah, it's
delicious.
Great.
Yeah,
yeah, they have the
so
that Hawaiian fried rice.
Everything
really
there
good.
Is delicious, and it's inexpensive, which is even better.
Yeah.
So when I represented Lakewood had a very, their reputation was being kind of a very stable but kind of sleepy city, right? Not much happening on.
We were in like a thing like the most boring
city, yes. And they thought that was a good thing because there was no craziness. It wasn't like, like Newport Beach crazy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it was very calm, very stable, and called boring. But I have seen over the years, I think there's sort of this real big push to attract, especially small businesses in the city. That because I've seen a bunch of stuff pop up that is really interesting and kind of cool, and so I think Lakewood is now sort of on the move in terms of trying to offer more to its residents. in addition to the stability, but like offer them, more places to shop or to dine. And I think that's exciting.
I think there's definitely been a push, and I think that the mall renovations that'll be happening, I think it's definitely exciting time for Lakewood. But I've always kind of liked the boring aspect, because I feel like Long Beach is close enough.
Yeah.
Like
true.
if it's Friday and I feel like but then you come to Lakewood, it's I've always it's always seemed very well run, very like under control.
Yes.
Some cities, I feel like every time I open up Instagram, there's something going on in them. So I like that we don't have that.
Lakewood still has what I would call that small town feel to it.
Yeah.
Where everybody feels neighborly, and it just feels like, one another, and it's not it. And I think that's a testament to like the number of parks and open spaces that they have. It feels very residential and very family friendly.
Yeah. And not so congested like some of the neighboring cities.
Yeah.
Like it was like my life goal to buy a house in Lakewood. And when I finally was, I mean, I still, when I pull up into my driveway, I'm just so darn proud of myself. Because my dad, he owns a barber shop on Lakewood and Bellflower right there. And we were technically in Long Beach, but that part of Long Beach kind of feels like it's Lakewood. Yeah. And went to Lakewood High. So I've always loved the city. But while you were representative here, I know you were a part of some really big things when you were a representative. There's the dog park that I go to frequently.
Yes,
now that I
love the dog park.
Now that I got a pup.
Yeah. When I was representing Lakewood, and I owned a dog too, and I would walk him in the park behind my house. And I guess the city got a complaint because I guess you were not supposed to walk the dog through the park, which really sort of surprised me. But I realized, like, I would talk to people, and the closest dog park was in Long Beach. Mm-hmm. So I told the city, why don't you think about, a lot of people own pets. Why don't you think about a dog park? And then they identified a piece of land that would work. And then there was some difficulty with getting the use rights to the land that I was able to help them iron out.
Oh, is it because it's by the electrical?
Yeah, it's underneath the electrical. Yeah, the right of way. But was able to iron that out for them, and they created the dog park, which is a great space for people to go. Yeah. And ever since then, like a bunch of my other cities followed suit, which is great. Yeah. I remember when I was first elected to represent Lakewood, the post office that's over by the mall. Mm-hmm. The cars would get jammed in the parking lot, and then the cars would back up into the street because there wasn't a dedicated lane to just drop mail off. Right. So you were competing against the people who were trying to find parking spaces to go in and do packages or whatever. So I got them the funding to do the little, they call it a snorkel lane to drop. Yeah. And it helped relieve a lot of the congestion on, I think Candlewood is the street.
Candlewood and Clark. Yep.
Yeah. And then when they renovated the sheriff's station in Lakewood, I was representing Lakewood. It was like cinder block built in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. And I was able to get them, when they renovated the sheriff's station, all of the brand new state-of-the-art computers and communications equipment, emergency communications equipment, so that they could, in an emergency, be able to, talk to one another and coordinate, response.
Sounds very important.
Yeah. So those were like three big projects.
Was there something with the horse stables too?
Yeah, there were horse stables along the riverbed, and their lease was coming up. It was about to expire, and they were not going to renew the lease for the horse stables. And so many people utilized that. They were doing therapeutic riding for people who are in physical therapy. So a lot of really good stuff going on at the horse stables, and I was able to also iron that out so that they could extend the lease, so they could continue to exist.
We had you last year. There was a lot of talk with the horse stables. I don't know how caught up you are, but I believe they sold it to a private company. Mm-hmm. But the city council had to really put in some work to keep it going. Yeah. There's an interesting chapter, but it's still there. So.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
So how's the campaign going?
Well, we're kind of taking a little bit of a break. We had a really tough primary election, and I was very busy running around campaigning in the different cities. So we're on a little bit of a hiatus. We'll hit it hard again in August for the general election in November, but we feel very confident. I was top vote getter in the primary, even though we had Democratic field that was crowded. And so I feel good. I feel like I'm in a strong position for the November election.
Yeah. I know I need to get off my butt and start campaigning because I'm in November too. But no, it's good to take a little bit of summer for yourself so you have the energy to get through it.
Yes. Yeah. Because campaigning is exhausting.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will say like, oh, I'm going to run for something. I'm like, okay, just know what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I tell people who are thinking about running for office, I tell them, well, if you never wanted to sell anything door to door, don't run for office.
Right.
If you never wanted to be a telemarketer, don't run for office because you got to talk to voters either on the phone or on their doorstep, and you have to put in the work.
Was there, well, with the new maps, was there any new area that you weren't that familiar with that you had to really like put a lot of work into?
Yeah. So because of Prop 50, my district changed. They basically took my current district and split it into two. And the 41st district, which is the one that now includes Lakewood, also that's where my home is and my office. So I opted to run in the 41st. And I'm picking back up the cities of Lakewood and Bellflower, which I previously represented. But there's some areas that are brand new to me, so I'm getting to know them quickly. Los Alamitos, part of Seal Beach, the Rossmore area. I pick up part of Fullerton and half of the city of Brea. Now, I knew Fullerton and Brea somewhat because I grew up in Anaheim, so familiar with those areas. But, even though I know like the physical lay of the land, it's getting to meet community members, elected officials, understanding, what the issues in each city are, what are their priorities for the upcoming year. So I did a lot of that during the campaign.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I was thinking about this with the LA mayor race, and I feel like there's probably going to be a lot of talk about the ethics of using AI for political campaigns.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably going to be a conversation the next couple of years because a lot of people that run will have like some opinion on that going forward. Do you see that being, or is it already a topic of like how to regulate campaigns that do that? Because I think it's crazy to use AI anything when you're talking about a political campaign.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are not a lot of guardrails right now for anything related to AI.
Right.
And people are really frightened because without parameters, it's like the wild, wild west. Yeah. So I do think that Congress, and I know there are special task forces that are working on that in Congress right now to try to figure out how do we put in guardrails, how do we make sure that people are not fooled by fake images that they may see that look completely real, or voices. There have been incidents in which people have gotten, voicemail messages that sound like it's coming from a person, but it's not. And I think we really do need to regulate that so that people cannot use AI in a nefarious way, in a bad way, in a way to try to trick people.
In a misleading way.
Yeah, in a misleading way.
You'd think like there'd be already laws on using someone's name and likeness and but it seems like that's more of like a civil thing rather than like a ethics law, campaign law type deal.
Yeah. I'm an attorney by training. The laws against slander are it's very difficult to prove that somebody has, slandered you, in part because if you are what's called a public figure, the bar is really, really high because we so prize First Amendment that we don't want to quell speech, but it makes it an almost impossible, threshold to prove that somebody is, purposely trying to spread lies about you.
Right. And I get that, even being a school board member, it's like the threshold of holding somebody accountable for what they're saying, because I get my family gets involved, and I'm like, dude, there's no way this could be cool. And then I'd speak to my attorney. He's like, dude, you're a public figure. He's like, they could say whatever they want. But there's a couple people in particular where why do we think this is okay? We can be yay First Amendment, which I'm totally for, but also just have some common sense. These are red flags.
Yeah. It's really disheartening if you are a public official to have people say things about you that are completely false, and you have very little recourse to try to, get them to stop saying those things about you. And what I have found is, the longer you're in office, the more kind of you let it roll off your back. But your family, it really hurts your family.
Yeah.
Like my son has heard these awful things that people have said about me. They're completely false. And he gets angry, and I have to try to tell him, hey, look, don't worry about it, whatever. But there isn't a lot of recourse, and it's disheartening. The other thing I find very disheartening about politics right now is people that come to public events and they just scream at you. Yeah. It's like, if you want to have a conversation about a particular topic that you and I may not see eye to eye on, let's sit down and have a civilized conversation. But screaming at somebody isn't going to help change their mind. It's like, I've tried to engage with people that scream about me about all kinds of things, and they won't sit down and talk to me in a rational way. It's more like they just want to either pick a fight or do a meme or a video and put it online, and I don't know, gain followers. I don't know, but it's not productive. It's not productive.
And people most have already made up their mind about you, regardless of how you really think or feel about something.
Most of the time, yeah. And
I think it throws people off when I've gotten stuff from people that they're throwing stuff at me. I'm like, I love having the conversation, and I love the dialogue, and I feel like there needs to be more of that, which is one of the reasons I love doing podcasts, because I feel like regardless of what party affiliation, I really feel like what I care about is good people doing good work.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe it. Most people want the same thing. Like, you can want safety for your country and want to support kids with disabilities. You could want, but it comes down to like we said earlier, it's like your budget, your priorities. And
I will tell you this: I staffed a booth at a concert in the park for one of my cities, and I had somebody come up and talk to me about an issue which isn't really a federal issue. It's more of a county issue.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the appropriate person for you to go and talk to would be your board of supervisor, your that, because the county can pass an ordinance, they can do something on a really local level. I can't really at a federal level. And they said, well, what is the most effective way? Should we protest their office? Should we just bombard them with phone calls? And I said, why don't you try calling and setting up a meeting to discuss the issue first, before you're jumping into these really extreme tactics? Like, see if your supervisorial representative is even aware of this issue, and have a dialogue with them first. But people want to jump to we're going to storm the office, and try having that dialogue first. It might be productive. They might be like, well, I wasn't aware of this issue. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Let me see what I can do about it. But it's like people want to go from zero to very angry very quickly. And it's like, stop, slow down, try to have a conversation first.
Well, I think that's what's so important about people knowing that that's an option, right? And that's one of the you came to the podcast to have a conversation, that you're accessible. Like, you can have these conversations. And I feel like when people have made up their mind that there is no conversation, that's where it's just anger and noise. But I think it's important to know that, for people to know, there were people doing the work, and you can just talk like an adult and just have a conversation.
Yeah. People tend to forget, we're human beings. I'm a mom. I'm, raising a kid on my own, and, I'm a dog lover. I'm a Dodger fan.
I'm so glad you are too.
Normal. I'm not somebody who's disassociated for how,
dehumanizing.
Yeah. What's going on in our community. I try to be accessible. I try to get out in my communities as much as I can. We always have the option that, DC's far away. Don't try to come see me in DC. It's expensive. It's far. Come to the local office. Make an appointment to come in and chat with me about whatever. I'm back in the office, in the local office, at least 7 days of the month, sometimes even a little bit more, depending on our vote schedule in DC. But it's so much easier for me to meet with people here than in Washington.
Do you bring your dog to DC?
My dog lives in DC, and I bring her into the office with me.
Okay, yeah,
But I'm going to tell you this. I had to put her down last week.
I'm so sorry.
She had some, very serious health issues, and she got to a point where she was not getting better. And that's always tough. That's always tough.
How old?
She was about 10 years old. She had diabetes and had some issues with her eyes and her liver. And it just got to be too much. And I love that dog. People would come to the office to say, is Scully in today? They didn't even want to come see me, and they wanted to come see her.
You have a picture of her in your office,
yes,
right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't a dog person my whole life. And then last year I got a dog because I have 2 daughters, and I was like, it's, feels right. And I'm such a softie for that dog now. And now I feel all these feelings that I could never relate to before. Like when you came in and you're, Evie was barking and you weren't, you were just, oh, she's fine. I judge people based on how they are with my dog now. I've had people come to the house and then they're just not, and they're just, dog. I'm like, oh man, I like you a little less now. Because there's something really, I don't know. I'm just a dog person now.
Well, they really claim part of your heart, and they become members of
So
your family.
loyal.
Yes. And, my mom used to ask me, because at one point I had 3 dogs, and she's like, why do you have to have so many dogs? She's like, you're going to be one of those crazy ladies that has 20 dogs living in the house. And I said, the reason why I have dogs, Mom, is because when I come home from work, they're happy to see me.
Always.
And number 2, the dog never asks me, Linda, are you gaining weight?
Right.
The dogs just love you the way you are,
I absolutely love it.
Yeah. They're good.
But I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's
it was
tough.
It was tough.
I'm sorry. I do have another question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned community projects.
Yes.
And I think our district's never really submitted for one. And one of the things I think our board right now, and what I try to do is we say a lot on our board, replacing past practices for best practices. And I think a best practice is to, make your wants known and to advocate. And that's why we've been doing, with the California school boards, we were doing a lot more as a board. But when people submit the community projects, what does that process, generally speaking, usually look like?
Sure. So at the beginning of every year, I try to sit down with I visit each city, and I try to sit down with the mayor of the city and the city manager. And I say, okay, what are your priorities for your city this year? And I do this also with superintendents of school districts. What are you trying to accomplish this year? What are your top priorities? What do you need help with? And then we try to figure out a way to help them. And we encourage them to submit projects for federal funding. And we don't control that process in to the extent that the majority creates the rules each cycle. So some years, you can submit certain projects, and then certain years they'll say, no, we're not taking these projects anymore. And I'm going to give you an example. Right now, you cannot submit, in the last appropriation cycle, you couldn't submit any project that had to do with funding for a museum. They just said, we're not going to fund museum projects. Okay. In years past, they've said, we're not going to fund any nonprofit requests. So it kind of depends on what the rules are.
It shifts around a little bit.
It shifts around. So I sit down, and then I have a list of this is what the city or the school district needs money for or wants to accomplish. And then once the appropriation cycle opens up, again, the majority dictates when that happens, we try to get to all of the people we've talked to the rules for that cycle. These are the things that we'll fund. These are the things we won't fund. And then we encourage them to submit projects. Many smaller cities or nonprofits or school districts don't have grant writers on staff.
Right.
Which is
I was going to say, it sounds almost like applying for a grant.
Yeah. And that's a hurdle. That is something that, it's an obstacle that will keep people from submitting. But we also do, my staff does trainings on okay, this is how you submit a project. This is what they want to know in the project. So we try to help them with their capacity so that they can at least submit something. And then there's a deadline by which those projects are submitted. We prioritize them. I may tell a city, give me your top 3 projects. And then a city gives me 11.
Right.
And I have to choose among the 11 what are the best projects that I think have the best chance of getting funded or are most necessary. So then we submit our requests, our prioritized requests to the Appropriations Committee, and they go through a whole cycle where they determine what will get funded and what will not.
Okay.
But that's an annual thing, and it's usually a one-time project. Very rarely is it like, oh, we're going to commit, $1 million this year and next year. And it's just typically a one-time pot of money, unless you have a project that is in phases. But that's kind of how the process works.
I know I've talked to Congressman Garcia a couple times, and I was giving him a hard time. At one point, I saw him. I was like, "Hey, man, if I see one more of those big checks on Instagram, I'm going to ask for ours." But so our district has talked about the project. So we have a couple in the chamber. So when the time comes, we'll send an email.
Yeah.
But I feel like our district really hasn't made an ask, and that's something we're trying to get more engaged. So that's
I tell people, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
I had one city one year did not submit any projects, and then the next time we got all the city managers together, they were complaining that they didn't get any federal funding. I'm like, well, if memory serves me correctly, you guys didn't apply for any.
Right. That was the last conversation I had where I was like, yeah, how come we don't get these big? He's like, you guys don't apply.
You have to apply.
Then I was like, okay, turns out there's a process.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket, right? Yeah, it's similar.
Yeah.
Thing.
So we're starting to buy lottery tickets. So and our superintendent, Dr. Simon's really great too. I hope you get the meter and sit.
I will, because I sit down, like I said, with the superintendents as well.
No, she's great. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, just, the two biggest messages that I'm getting from constituents, because I'm, like I said, out in my cities trying to kind of keep my fingers on the pulse of what's going on. Families are really struggling financially. And there's two main drivers of that people are concerned about. And that is housing is incredibly expensive here in Southern California, and healthcare is expensive. So I have some bills that are working on affordability issues so that we can incentivize the building of more affordable housing, and also bills that will help with being able to afford a quality healthcare plan. So just know that those are two big priorities that I'm working on. As the top Democrat on the Trade Subcommittee and Ways and Means, I am working diligently to try to get rid of tariffs. Tariffs are a tax on people. They've done studies that have shown that in the past year, families have paid about $1,100 more for goods because of the tariffs. And the president does not have the power to impose tariffs. That's Congress's jurisdiction. The Supreme Court has even said that.
Yeah.
And yet the president continues to try to, keep tariffs going.
That's crazy. Are they reimbursing the tariffs?
They're supposed to be. How
does that? I feel like I have a hard time with my own online QuickBooks. Like, how do you even do that?
Yeah, it's a convoluted process. And the sad fact is that big businesses who have lots of resources are going to have attorneys or accountants that can help them figure out that process. Small businesses, medium-sized businesses,
they're not going
to get their fair share. And the consumers who paid more for goods are not getting reimbursed, which, we just spent $1,100 more out of pocket, and we're not going to get that back.
Right.
Unless a business is kind enough to say, okay, we got this money back, we're going to give it to our consumers. And there have been a couple that have said they want to try to, get some of that back to the consumers. But
I feel like that'd be rare.
Maybe
there's some
would be
great
rare
ones out there.
I'm not saying every company. I'm saying there are a couple. So yeah.
What's weird, the tariffs, I feel like one side says like it's to protect American jobs, and then on the other hand, it's hurting American workers. Like, how does that reconcile?
Sure. So tariffs can be an effective way to level the playing field when you have other countries that are engaging in unfair trade practices. That's why tariffs were created. However, they should be used strategically for specific industry-specific problems.
Right.
Okay?
Not the whole country.
Right. Not to say, okay, every good that comes in from, Mexico, we're going to slap with this tariff.
Is it sloppy? Is it kind of like just like a really dumb? Because I could see like if one country is like, trading, it's just very on balance, and you're like, okay, well, 15%, but is that just like a really like sloppy way of doing it, where it should be by industry to like actually make those adjustments?
Now, the justification that the president gave for his Liberation Day tariffs was that we have trade deficits with these countries, so we're going to slap tariffs on them. But he slapped tariffs on countries that we don't have trade deficits with.
Right. So he feels disingenuous.
Yeah, completely. Best example, Brazil. We have a trade surplus with Brazil, not a trade deficit.
Right.
So Brazil should have never gotten tariffed in the first place. The president imposed tariffs not because there's a trade deficit with Brazil, but because he didn't like that they were prosecuting Bolsonaro for trying to overthrow their government. So totally non-related to any economic thing. He didn't like it, so hey, you get tariffs. And you're not allowed to do that if you're president. The Supreme Court said you can't do that. That's an overreach of power. That's Congress's jurisdiction. Only Congress can impose those kinds of tariffs.
Right.
He's slapped tariffs on, Switzerland. We don't have a trade deficit with Switzerland. I mean, there's many countries we do not have trade deficits with that he imposed tariffs anyway.
Yeah.
And everybody's scratching their head saying, why? Why are you making enemies of our trading partners and our allies who buy American goods?
Right.
And it's not for any other reasons, just because he wants to.
A lot of things I feel like get reversed every 4 years or 8 years. Like it's just kind of like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It feels like that sometimes. What do you think is the biggest step back in the past 4 years that you feel like is going to take a long time to recover from?
It's going to be the way the president has treated our historic allies.
Okay.
So bashing NATO, withdrawing troops from NATO, saying he wants to seize Greenland, which is its own sovereign nation. Just these are countries that have stood with us, that we have an alliance with because we share democratic values, that if something really bad happens, they're going to be the people that step up. Right. And he has unilaterally just angered and belittled many of our historic allies. Canada, when he kept saying, Canada, we're going to make it the 51st
Yeah, we got
state.
Canada mad.
They're rare. Like some of the nicest people in the world. Really mad. And as a result, now in certain provinces, they won't sell any U.S. wine, like from California, which is a big export of ours, or Kentucky bourbon. They will not sell any American label alcohol, which is having a huge impact on those industries in the United States. So it just devolves into these trade wars. But he's done more to damage our reputation around the world. And that's going to take a lot of time to repair that trust with folks that we should naturally be aligned with. Right. And I just, I worry because people used to believe that when a U.S. president gave you their word, you could take that to the bank. And now because he's changing all the time his positions, they don't think that we're a reliable trading partner. They don't think we're a reliable security partner. And that's going to take a lot of time to fix.
Right. Did Trump lose us the World Cup this year?
No, unfortunately, I think the men's team lost us the World Cup.
I saw some article because he was making the call and stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, that doesn't help either. This sense that he's trying to bully people into doing things, didn't help. But no, that's on the men's team, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, Congresswoman, thank you. And you're the first person who gets to put the brick on the wall. Oh, I love this. It's not a Lego.
No, it's not.
A brick.
It's a brick. It's ginormous. Do I get to put it anywhere?
Anywhere you want.
Okay. This seems like the natural spot.
There we go.
There we go. Locked in.
You're in. Eventually, this is going to be a whole thing. And yeah, I've been doing the podcast for a little while now, but I really enjoy it, and I feel like we've had some really great people on, and you're one of them.
Thank you.
I love talking to people that are putting in the work to make our community great. And that's what this is all about. So thank you for what you do.
Happy to come back anytime.
All right. I'm going to take you up on that. and you'll get an email from our district about some community projects. And hopefully you get to sit down with Dr. Simon as well.
Yeah.
Congresswoman Sanchez, anything else?
Just, a lot of people have a hard time understanding the different levels of government. And I always put in this plug, okay? Our office has jurisdiction at the federal level. We have jurisdiction over any federal agency. Social Security, veterans, the post office, getting passports. If you have a problem with any of those agencies or the IRS, any federal agency, please come to our office or call our office. We are there to help.
That's right. And I know that you do take the time because there was one instance recently, my good friend David Ariano's council member, I know he reached out and you were able to help with some immigration issues.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
There's proof of it.
Yeah.
You do it.
That's what we're there to do. We're there to help.
Well, thank you very much.
Of course.
I really appreciate you. All right, everybody, that's the episode of Brick by Brick. Remember, keep building community one conversation at a time, and we'll see you in the next one.